Sorry, I have my audio turned off. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was saying that I thought Micah was hosting this, and then my new library shelves arrived like 5 minutes before the thing was supposed to start.
Perfect timing.
I know. Well, especially since they weren't supposed to arrive until like November. But
Oh, yeah. Yep.
yeah. The last time I ordered library shelves, they arrived like 6 months late. So it's, now they're early. So I
Right,
guess
right.
I'm not allowed, I can't complain.
Right. Yeah, and who was supposed to be hosting this, did you say, Karen?
I believe Micah said he would. I sent him an email. He might have gotten busy too.
Well, and
Sherry Schrader had posted something on Facebook, so I don't know if she's gonna join or not. I've been battling a cold all week.
yeah, I was gonna say you sound a little stuffed up. Not terribly bad, but yeah, a little.
I'm on the mend. It's just like, this is the part where it's all breaking down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you sound worse than you feel.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, I guess we can get started.
Okay. You are correct, Karen, by the way, that Micah was going to be the presenter for this.
Yeah.
I opened up the spreadsheet.
Yeah. Anyway, my original idea for this was just to kind of have an open, fun discussion about weird things or fun things or odd things that have happened in our various institutions, and just kind of share some fun stories. They don't have to be spooky related. They could just be kind of odd coincidences. So I don't I don't know who wants to get started, but
And I'm going to be honest, I really don't have anything to share. I just thought it was going to be fun to hear other people's stories.
I know.
Yeah, same here. We did do in South Dakota, we did do a Halloween themed YouTube videos, a series of videos, but it was in the early days of YouTube, and I look back at them now and they are quite cringeworthy. So but we had a body box that a gangster that was killed in Detroit was returned to South Dakota in, and we talked about that.
Wow.
Bible that was in a guy that got, or in the cell with a guy that got lynched outside of jail. Yeah, electric chair. That's all I really had to add.
Another person joining us. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any creepy stories. It's always creepy working in old buildings at night, and I've heard stories, but nothing's ever happened to me, which is funny because I love ghost stories. I've loved ghost stories since I was a kid. But I know that several of museums and historical sites around Nebraska host paranormal investigators. Buffalo County, Brock from Buffalo County did last year's October Musing, and he talked about how they host paranormal investigations and what they do, and that was kind of interesting, and what they've encountered.
Yeah, well, I think the Merrick County Historical Society, I saw a newspaper article recently they did a cemetery tour. I think
Oh, yeah.
probably in Central City, because that's where the Merritt County Historical Society is located. But they also had some people, bring like dowsing rods and stuff like that. So it was more than just a tour of, oh, this is where this person's buried, but they, talked more about,
Mhm.
Yeah.
We do a tour here in the museum called Dead Things. I don't think we're not doing it this year, but we've done it in the few years past. But we talk about, well, we have a lot of natural history mounts. We talk about that stuff, and then also other more historic items that revolve around death and destruction and whatnot. So it's been really popular. We're bringing it back next year, I think. But that's kind of, we do two tours like that, Dead Things and then Dirty Things around Valentine's Day,
Mhm.
where we talk about things that are dirty and then things that are risque dirty. So that's more for adults.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, when we did the curiosity training at History Nebraska, that was always the questions about what people are curious about, and it's always things that are forbidden or things that are not talked about. So I think things like ghost stories and naughty things, people always want to hear about that, kind of the less talked about history. People love that.
Right. And stuff maybe that you can't find easily in, some sort of, book or publication or exhibit or, something like that somewhere. It might be a little bit harder
Yeah.
to find.
That's
Well, it really
awesome.
helps too that we're a natural history museum, because there's some weird, freaky stuff that goes on in the
Right.
natural world.
Well, and with all of your, stuffed, animals on those exhibits and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The worst thing that happens here is every once in a while we get a snake that comes up, we get a little gardener snake that comes up the elevator shaft and makes itself at home in my library.
That's fun.
So, yeah, they did not tell me about that when I interviewed for the job. That was a neat little surprise.
Uh-huh.
So hello, Sherry. How are you?
I'm all right. I waited and waited and waited, and then I went off to do other things. And I came back and I thought, well, I'm going to look one more time. And boom, there you are.
Yeah. No, Micah was supposed to host, and my library shelves shipped like 2 weeks early and they arrived just before they came. So it's exciting. But anyway,
Micah
anybody,
ill or something? Do we
what?
know? Is Micah ill or do
I
we
don't
know?
know. I emailed him and I haven't heard back, but it could be. So we'll see. I know, trust me, I know there's a crud going around. So it's not like him to miss something like this. So he probably either got caught up with a tour or something. That's what happens when you're a one-man band at a museum. So
As I will know.
yes, as we well know. So anybody else have any interesting stories?
Well, I guess I'll just throw this one out here.
Yeah.
When I started here, I was told to watch where we have 3 buildings in the old school building. I was told to watch for Mr. Mooney.
Mooney.
And I was not quite sure what all that was about. But there was a Mr. Mooney who was a janitor at this old school building for many years and stuff. And I have tried asking people just this week, some longtime members and things, what was the story about Mr. Mooney and why do they think he's haunting the museum and all this stuff? And nobody seems to know why. But so we have Mr. Mooney, and if something strange happens in there, I say hi, Mr. Mooney, and we just go on. And then several years ago, we had some paranormal investigators want to come, and I don't know if they had heard about Mr. Mooney or what the deal was. But anyway, we had them come, and that was most interesting. It was late in the evening, I think it was in November, cold and everything, and we're in the East Building, which is a metal Balin building.
Oh, mhm.
And if it's cold and in November and the wind is blowing, this building is going to pop and crack and, make sounds. And they were just sure that that meant that there were spirits around and stuff. And they seemed to find people talking in two of the buildings and all this stuff. And we made the mistake of letting them come back a second time. And then we became known as the Haunted Museum, which was just a nightmare. So I'm asking you folks not to publicize all of this because it's kind of died down a little bit now. And if people around here can't even remember why they were talking about Mr. Mooney being there, that's fine, although I would love to know. But anyway, so that's our hauntings. Metal Balin buildings will pop and crack in a cold November windy night.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And we were actually, so our museum is hosting like a spooky night on Monday evening, and our office is going to be there actually talking about like, oh, if your house creaks, then, maybe because there's, like air leaking somewhere, or, just like reasons why, like old houses make the noises they do, that there's actually some logical reasons behind that.
Yeah.
Here's Micah.
Well, they refused to believe me when I was telling them about metal Balin buildings, but we know them well in Columbus, Balin buildings, that is. So anyway, that's my story.
Sorry, Karen. I finally got here.
That's okay.
I was frantic. Our Wi-Fi router just decided to like die, and so I had to
Oh.
like restart it, and it wouldn't keep connecting. So I got it. So sorry about that.
No problem. So, when I worked at Store Museum, there was always the story that the Cleary farmhouse, which is where the educational area is, that Mrs. Cleary stuck around, and she didn't like it when you swore or gossiped. So I never experienced it, but several of the other staff members experienced it. So if you swore or started to gossip, like shades would go up, or you would hear footsteps or something like that. So and it was again an old farmhouse that had been moved on site, but that was always the staff thing, is like, there's no swearing in the Cleary farmhouse because Mrs. Cleary doesn't like it. And no gossiping.
Really fun program that we've done in the past was we had ghost hunters, like paranormal investigators, come and did a like nighting at the museum here.
Oh,
And
neat.
then one of our programs, they came and give a talk on like what they found in that. It was the most attended like monthly program that we have ever had. It was crazily popular. So that might be something like for some of your museums too, if you ever get an idea of like, hey, for a program, it's not super like historical or scholarly, but it gets the people out, it gets people engaged. So that one was really fun. But I always joke to people, I mean, this is the museum here is an old creaky steel building. It cracks and crinkles and everything. And I always joke is that, okay, the mannequins, the flesh eating mannequins come alive at night. and that always really gets the kiddos going. But it's super creepy, and you get that like paranormal, like, you know, there's that paranormal idea of like you have your soul or a soul connected to an artifact that was near and precious, and museums are full of those things. And so it always is, it's really cool for bringing up the imagination. The only main ghost story in Phelps County that I know of is at the Speakeasy, which is a really good restaurant, and I highly recommend going. But theirs is, I forgot, it's a name of a farmhand that was like 16 years old or something like that. And he had fallen in an accident down their utility elevator, and he died. And years later, as it's kind of been over new management and stuff like that, since I think like the 80s, like they've always had instances, like different reports in that in the building. And it's more like just pranks in a way, is like what they phrase it as. Like they'll come out and like lights will flicker like on and off, on and off, and they can audibly hear the light switch, is one of the reports. And they'll go around, nobody's in there, check the parking lot, no cars. And they come back and they're like, okay, we locked the doors, there's shouldn't be anybody or anything in there. And they'll just chalk it up to another one of those things. Or they'll have they'll come in the morning, and again, first thing in the morning, setting up for the restaurant for the dinner service and all that, and they'll have like dinnerware set out on some of the tables that nobody, like they cleaned house like the night before, so there shouldn't be anything out. So they have lots of really cool stories like that. And I told them, like, start writing that stuff down, and like we could work with them on, like, you know, publishing kind of like a spooky, you know, the haunting of Sacramento, Nebraska, or something like that, and it'll be really fun. But sorry I missed some others. I didn't know if anybody else had any cool ones.
I've been working at the Saunders County Museum for, I guess, 10 months now, since January. And I was down in the basement working down there at the computer, and I felt somebody like brush my hair.
Oh.
And I thought, I thought something like fell in my hair or something, and I didn't pay attention. And then I felt somebody actually tug my hair. And then right behind my ear, I heard a woman's voice say, hello. And I was the only person down there. So that freaked me out a little bit, but but it hasn't happened since then. So I think maybe because I was, I had only been working there like a month, so maybe they got used to me coming up and downstairs. But a few times I've been here by myself, and I've heard footsteps, up above, on the second floor when I'm the only one here. But otherwise, that's it. Aaron said that there had been, I guess a few years ago, they had some ghost hunters here. And they did say that they caught a few things in some of the outer buildings, but I don't think they did anything inside the main museum building, but that they found a couple things in the outer buildings. So, but yeah, there's definitely a couple. Sometimes do have to be careful not to freak myself out, because sometimes I've heard, well, I thought it was creaking, and I thought, well, I wonder what that is. And then it turned out it was the windmill outside.
Oh.
For next year's,
that's
Karen,
all.
NMA will have to invest in like a soundboard so we can like play like spooky music behind, dun-dun.
Well, we have mannequins downstairs, and Aaron's always, she says she's gonna, move them around and mess with me sometimes. So.
Yeah.
I always think the most horrifying room we have in the museum, and in a lot of museums that have mannequins, like we have a mannequin room, and it's just a bunch of body parts, like a stack of arms, stack of torsos. It's definitely horror movie material in there.
For sure. We do at Christmas time, we do a display. There's a German Russian custom. They have a similar story, kind of like the German Krampus. And I can't remember, they call it something different in German Russian, but so they dress this mannequin up as like this kind of Krampus type thing. And it's kind of right outside my office. And like I'll work late and all the lights will be off. And I'll walk outside and I forget that that's there. And it scares me every single time. Because it's the creepiest thing. I'm sure that Krampus is going to get me. Probably, I'm probably on the naughty list for some reason, but yeah, I think dolls in museums and mannequins in museums are the worst.
Yeah, I agree. Years ago, and I'm sure you remember this, Karen, but there was an exhibit of Terry Lee dolls.
Oh, yeah, that was the
And it
creepiest
was-
exhibit.
Yeah, exactly. It was before a museum was renovated and
Yep.
stuff. And if you had to go into the offices on the first floor of our museum from outside, you'd go through this Terry Lee doll exhibit. I just like walked through as quickly as possible. You had all these eyes staring at you, and I thought it was creepy.
Yeah. It's all of these identical dolls.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Y'all should follow Dawson County Historical Society on their Instagram, because their
Okay.
entire month of Halloween, they've been posting like their different dolls in different locations of their museum with like a filter over it. I love the idea. Like they're doing really cool stuff. And it's super easy and cheap to do. You just sit one of your, dolls over there and call her a day, and that's good marketing. But yeah, am I the only one though too? Is like after watching like Night at the Museum, and you're like, no, I don't want that happening. I don't care. I don't care if Robin Williams' ghost is involved. I don't want my museum coming alive at night.
Yeah. For sure.
I think especially if you're a natural history museum and have dinosaurs and stuff, that would not be good.
Moral Hall, just their fungus exhibit just starts engulfing half of the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think that was one exhibit that I went to where it was like they were talking about like invasive bug species and like house pests and stuff like that, and like knowing the difference, like a PSA type of a deal. And I'm like, ooh, nope, I don't want those coming alive. Nope. But
Yeah.
no, I think Halloween's just a really interesting, time of year, because it's fun, it's quirky, it's not wrapped up into like the family, it's like not really wrapped up into like Christmas and all those kind of, big family holidays. So I think it is more fun, like opportunities for museums to, step out and get people in. Does any of you museums, anybody here that do like trick or treating at their museum? Yeah.
No, we should. We're kind of in a nice little neighborhood.
Yeah. My in-laws live 2 blocks south of you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I was thinking about that the other day, because like a lot of like the churches in the area have kind of co-opted like all of the trunk and treat programs to their locations. But I'm like, that might be kind of an interesting idea, is to maybe look at that for next year, is having some kind of a trick or treat Halloween thing. Like my predecessor always wanted, he did it once, and I never heard anything about it, so I don't know if it was good or bad, but he tried to do like a haunted house walkthrough like event at night, where he just put like different lightings on different the displays to make them look creepy. And then he took a couple of like the mannequins and painted red for like the body parts or stuff like that and put them in some of the locations. And like nothing like super disruptive. But again, didn't really hear anything about that, but that's an idea somebody's floated by a couple of times.
I know in Wahoo, the city has a event at the fairgrounds called Boo and Wahoo, and it's a big like trick or treat thing, and so we participate with that. We get some like a little erasers or something to give out, but the museum itself doesn't. Well, basically because the Boo and Wahoo is the biggest thing there, so but we don't do anything special for Halloween. So
Yeah. When I worked at Stewart, well, it's still going on, but they're haunted, or what do they call it? All Hallows event was always a big event. It was almost as big as their Christmas event.
Hmm.
And that was always fun, watching the little kids run around in their costumes and things. And it grew every year. It went from one weekend to 2 weekends while I was working there back in the 2000s. It's cold, I swear. So, and I see that April at Frank's house is doing a seance event.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see how that goes.
yeah, I
It
talked with
sold
her.
out really quick.
Yes, yeah, I talked with her about it. They did like a friends of the friends of the museum night of it. And I was double booked that night, so I wasn't able to make it. But I talked to her afterwards, and she's just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to Friday and Saturday," because those were both, yeah, booked out. And she's just was really excited, I think, of how it turned out. I talked to her yesterday a little bit, and she said it went really, really well. So I'm just kind of curious like how that actually worked. Like, so she went, and do you know too much about it?
No.
So what she did was, so the Frank House was kind of in like the Victorian era where like, spiritualism
Right.
and all like skepticism or whatever, like that was super widespread. And so seances for these like rich and elites, for the most part, were the only ones privileged enough to have these kind of house parties. And so that's where they're trying to like loop it into the history of the Frank House, is they don't have any evidence that the Franks ever did that. They were pretty staunch, proponents against that. So it was kind of fudged and more just saying like of the era. But still, like the fact that it wasn't just like a core group of like students. No, like they had a huge long waiting list of just different students from around the area. And then she was really surprised too. She got a lot of people from outside of the university too, like a
Oh,
lot of older folks that are in like the surrounding area, that signed up too to come. And so it wasn't just students, which I thought was really cool. It had a wider reach. And so I was like, oh, you're definitely gonna do that next year with more, spots. She's like, oh yeah. But yeah, she just went through like all of the ritual of it and like why they did seances and what the practices were, and just kind of and performed one. They didn't have any like SFX or special effects or anything. It was just more of a information night thing, but she said it was really, really well received.
that's cool. That's very cool.
I don't know, does anybody have any other events or anything that they do in the fall? I know we had our big fall festival a couple weeks ago, and that went really well. We had over 660 people, which is kind of insane for an event for us. So we are very happy on how that turned out. But
We did an Oktoberfest.
oh, like at ASGR?
Yep. It was super cold, but we partnered with Kincaidor Brewing,
Yeah.
and they had an Oktoberfest down in the Haymarket, and then we had the do you know that the party bicycle where they
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that was coming back and forth from their Oktoberfest to our Oktoberfest.
Hmm.
Runza donated a bunch of free Runzas, and so we had free will donations for Runzas. But yeah, I mean, for us, we had about 200 people, which is pretty good for us.
Yeah,
But
that's actually really neat. That for like a first time doing that kind of event, that's really neat. That's a cool partnership.
yeah, and we did have a beer garden, but because everybody was coming from Kincaidor where there was a beer, thanks there I just got these glasses. They they were coming with beer. So they weren't really
Yeah.
buying beer at our beer garden, which was also provided by Kincaidor. So
You just kind of
I
use the
don't know if
parking
we
lot
would do
there.
a beer garden again next year, but I think it was a really good event. It was super duper cold that day. but we still had a good turnout. The bouncy house got canceled because it was kind of sprinkling, but it was a good day. I got to stay inside. That was important. So
Yeah,
I ran the gift shop.
there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's a really cool partnership. That's things I wish, my board would be okay thinking outside of the box a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. So it was good. But
I don't know. Did Dan say, or when you were at, does Hastings do anything, or Kelly, does History Nebraska do anything during like fall festivals or Oktoberfest or Halloween or?
I mentioned earlier that we're doing a like spooky night sort of thing on Monday night.
Oh,
There's going to be
okay.
speakers, but then my office is going to be there to talk about, like when your old house creaks, this is why.
No, that's really fun. That's creative.
Yeah, it was kind of a fun way to get our office involved in a museum event.
Nice.
And then we've been making ofrendas, altars, for like Mexican American, Hispanic American cultures. And so we got to each kind of area of history in Nebraska got to pick who they wanted to do, and you could do it as your group of colleagues and stuff. And so I think and then they're going to be over at the museum, and the public is going to vote on their favorite. And so it's kind of a
That's very
staff
cool.
competition too, but it's also for the public to look at too. So.
Nice. When is that?
The event is Monday night.
The 30th.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but then the ofrendas will be up for, I'm not sure exactly how long, but a little while. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Yeah, sorry I came in late.
It's okay.
Missed it.
In SHPO, we did ours on Paul Swan. He's really cool. You should look him up.
Neat. Well, I'm gonna have to go. Unfortunately, there's a UNL tour here that wants to tour the archives, so I gotta jump off.
Yeah, I don't know if we have too much else either. I didn't know if anybody else had any quick things or.
So maybe we can just wrap it up. Now, next month, do you wanna? You're doing your thing next month. Is that November? Or is that? Let me look. No, April is doing storytelling next month.
Right.
So that'll be great.
I
But
think I'm January.
you're December.
I'm December.
You're
Okay.
December, you're gonna talk about your institutional overview. What are you calling it?
The survey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and then the people from Texas is going to be there
In January. Okay, yeah. I was like, I coordinated something for January too.
Yeah.
Oh, she's really neat. I met her in Corpus Christi, so that'll be a good one.
So, but just a reminder to everybody that because of the holidays, the monthly musings is a week earlier. So it'll be November 17th and December 15th due to the holidays. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Sorry about the delay. Yeah. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Yep.
You
Thank you,
can't tell
Karen.
from my office. It's my favorite
See everybody
holiday.
later.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Happy Halloween. Bye.